All right. So today, in today's, I guess it's tip 18. Holy cow, we're almost all the way through in the 23 best home buying tips that I've discovered over the 23 years of being a broker in the business. And today's home buying tip 18 is especially good. Now, I had a couple different titles in mind, but I ultimately settled on how to negotiate the purchase price. Ultimately, I wanted to kind of get to the point where you could, well, you'll see. But the premise here is simply this, that hopefully, okay, as you've discovered over the course of these videos, right, that the reality of the market you're in, the variance between what you can purchase the home for versus what they've listed the home for or what they're asking for, generally, 2 to 5%. Usually that's where that is. I mean, unless you're in sort of an investing type mode, and that's a different altogether thing. But, for the regular home buyer, when you think about it, the variance between what they're asking for their home versus what you ultimately is going to pay for, 2 to 5%. It's not huge differences. It's not 10, 15%. It's not like that, right? So the question then is, well, gosh, if it's only 2 to 5% the difference, but no matter where it is in the United States, if that's the case, well, how do I know that I'm getting a good deal? I mean, what's a good deal? And how do you figure that out for yourself? Now, for me, right, as a purchaser myself, as an investor, as someone who goes out in the market all the time, it depends on how you qualify a good deal, right? When you're negotiating the price and the terms, the concessions, there's a little bit of a level of brinkmanship, right, that goes along. Now, I'm not saying that you play games with people. No, you don't play games. I mean, that's just disrespectful. But there is a level of give and take. There is a level of tactics, if you will, when you're trying to get a good deal, if you're trying to get the things you want. Here's what I mean. Point number one, everybody must feel like they got something, right? So if you're out in the marketplace and you're trying to buy a property, okay, you've probably heard it before, right? It starts with the offer. And then, if you beat them up early, you're probably going to have a hard time getting what you want later on at the end. You've probably heard that before, right? My feeling is simply this. If you write down a list of all the things you wanted in a property, I want a pool, I want, 4 bedrooms, I want, 1,800 square feet, it's got to have a beautiful kitchen, it's got to have a dog run, if you wrote a list of all the things you wanted in a property and you got 80% of that, okay, you'd be doing pretty good, right? As a home buyer, okay, you've got to feel like you got something that you wanted. And 80% of that list is not so bad. Well, maybe you didn't get the dog run. Maybe you got the kitchen view, but you didn't get the dog run. Well, maybe you can put the dog run in later, right? But for the homeowner, they get a home buyer, which is you. I wrote down point number 2, remain open-minded. Remain open-minded. When you're trying to get a good deal in the marketplace, when you're trying to negotiate for a good deal, you have to remain open-minded. Here's what I mean. It's difficult, but try to remain open-minded because there's more than one way to solve a problem. I'll tell you an honest-to-God truth. This is an honest-to-God truth. My very first home, I remember this, very first home, and I'm in the business at that time. My very first home I was going to buy, right? And I remember so clearly the appraisal coming back and the underside of the carport needed to be painted, right? It was a VA loan and it was flaky and it needed to be repainted. And I went to the seller and I said, I need you to fix this because the VA is not going to give me my loan unless you fix it. And he says, well, gosh, so I can't help you. And I was furious and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get the deal. And this guy's being I said some unkind things, right? And my mom, God bless her heart, she had said, are you going to let this deal die over $700 worth of paint? And that's when it occurred to me, you know what? With that seller, I bet you I could get somebody in there to paint that place and he'd be okay with that. And that's ultimately what we did. And I got that property. It was my first home. And when I sold it, I made a great deal of money thanks to my mother's great wisdom. You know, the thing that I got to tell you, it's difficult when your mind is in the deal. When even, as I said, I was in the business and I should know what to do, right? It's difficult because your emotions are involved to stay open-minded, right? Sometimes a clear eye helps. Point number 3, don't be afraid to walk away. And this is what I really wanted to entitle this message, but it seemed to me like it was really fundamental to the whole process. If you're going to negotiate for yourself a good deal, you have to understand it's only 2 to 5%. It's not like you're going to, negotiate a ton off the price. And if you did, well, then don't expect a lot for concessions or repairs in the back end because they're not going to be too receptive, right? And then here we are at the very back end of this. If you are trying to get a good deal and you've been operating in good faith, and you know what? You're at an impasse. Don't be afraid to walk away. Right? You'd be surprised. It's amazing what will happen, right? If you threaten to walk away. Now look, I am not saying to walk away out of a contract when it's illegal to do that. No, I'm saying within the contract, within the bounds of the contract, if you're willing to walk away and lose your earnest money, sometimes that's all it takes for people because you know what? They've got their emotions invested in this. They've got boxes packed. The realtor spent the commission. Whatever it is, if you decide, you know what? Nobody's listening to me and I need this addressed, I'm going to walk away. You'd be surprised. It's like Lazarus coming from the grave, right? Understand this fundamental point. Nothing is ever dead as long as you leave it in a good shape when you leave. Don't leave angry. Don't leave, frustrated. Don't leave with emotions angry at each other because there's always a possibility to come back around and get the deal done if you left it right the first time. Guys, listen, I'd love to hear your comments. I really appreciate you listening to my stories. As always, I hope you have a powerful sales day and take care. Bye-bye.